Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. We are here to announce the results of another Syracuse Truce enforcement action against the 110 gang members. I am joined up here, of course, by Chief Fowler, Major Coots from the State Police, Sheriff Cicerelli, Larry Williams, who's standing behind me. Where's Grant Jaquith? Right over my right shoulder. Thank you all for joining me. As you can see with the folks behind me, this is not an effort that any one agency does, but instead this is an effort of collaboration around different police officers and different agencies, because as we all know too well, that when you start talking about enforcement, the more agencies that you have to really drive home the issue of enforcement, the better off it is. And we have had just great partnership and collaboration between these multiple different agencies. So this latest enforcement exercise was taken following the homicides of Zavion Escobar on October 14th of 2015 on Hope Avenue and Tony Guyton on November 10th of 2015 on South Clinton Ave. And the chief is going to come up and talk to you some more about the particulars of this. What the Truce initiative does is it takes dangerous criminals off the streets and keeps our neighborhoods safer. And what we have said to people in our neighborhoods and the people that we think have the potential of getting involved in unsavory activity, that we're going to hold them accountable. Our first goal is to prevent crime, but if and when crime happens, we are going to enforce the laws to make sure that we take these people off the streets and keep our neighborhoods safe. So this is again done with the tremendous work of the Syracuse Police Department and its partners, using both data and thoughtful, innovative police practices. We are doing all that we can to use our resources efficiently and effectively to focus on the primary goal of keeping our neighborhoods and the people who reside and live in our neighborhoods safer. So with that, let me turn it over to Chief Fowler, who can talk more particulars about this action. Thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. And I first want to thank our law enforcement partners, and also to thank the community who are a big partnership in this. We stand here today, and at some point I'm going to talk about some crime stats. But when I talk about the crime stats, I'm not going to talk about it from a perspective of joy, because in order for us to reach this point, and the reason why we're here today is because 2 young men lost their lives during this process. When we started Truce, we delivered a message, and we continue to deliver the message that if someone picks up a gun and kills a member of our community, then we're going to utilize all of our law enforcement efforts to come after them. So on October 14th of 2015, we had a homicide at 148 Hope Avenue, and then shortly thereafter, in November the 10th of 2015, we had a homicide on 550 South Clinton Street. Both of these homicides we discovered was in connection with the 110 gang members. Each of the suspects were identified as a member of the 110 gang. So we called a Truce Trigger in connection with both of these murders. And for that period of time, shortly after the first murder of October the 14th, stretching through and beyond November the 10th, we were able to arrest 28 targets for vehicle and traffic stops, and then also 27 known gang members were arrested for 29 separate incidents, and for a total of 58 charges. And these charges range from murder, assault second, criminal possession of a weapon, domestic violence, various drug charges, warrants, larcenies, and the like. And listen, we want the violence in our community to stop. That is the ultimate goal. We want the people that reside in the neighborhoods throughout our community to be able to do so safely. We want our children to be able to play in their front yards, and we want everyone to live and play in the city of Syracuse as comfortable as they could possibly be. And when we have people who are picking up guns and firing them off in our community, they're putting the quality of life of our citizens and their safety at jeopardy. And that's not going to be tolerated. It's not going to be tolerated. Hopefully, this will be the last time any of us will have to stand at or around this podium to announce a truce trigger. But in the event that someone doesn't listen, then we will be back here and we will be talking about multiple arrests that we've made in connection to these murders. So we have to work together. We're hoping that those out there who are considering getting involved in an act of crime and violence will get this message and they would stop. But if they don't, then please look over my shoulder and beyond in the room. We have a number of dedicated law enforcement partners that are already committed to assisting us in this effort and going after you. Okay, I'm sorry. And next will be Major Cooch from the New York State Police.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, and thank you, Chief. I just want to emphasize the fact that this is a community issue that we're dealing with. It's not just a city problem. Anybody that may use any part of the city has a responsibility to assist the city police department. And I want to show the chief and I want to show the mayor that the state police is committed, that they're going to be a full partner in this operation, and that whenever there's a trigger or truce issue, is that the state police will be a full partner in that enforcement effort. So again, thank you, Chief, for including the state police.
Thank you, Major Coots. Next, we'll hear from Sheriff Cicerelli. How did I do on that?
Did good.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief. Thank you, Mayor. I just want to reiterate what Major Coots said. You know, this is a community problem. We all need to stand up and fight this problem. I wish we weren't here today doing this, but let it be known that if this has to happen again, that the Chief has the full cooperation of the Onondaga County Sheriff's Office. It is a problem that we all have to face together, and hopefully we don't have to do this again, but if so, we'll do what we need to do. Again, we stand committed to this operation, and Chief, thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you, Sheriff. And next, we'll hear from Larry Williams, who is one of the coordinators for our Q's Cares anti-violence initiatives.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Chief. Good afternoon. You know, it always saddens me when we have to come to an event and we have to announce a tragedy from all levels. Those that have lost lives and those that will lose freedom. A community sometimes that held is hostage. I just want to thank all of our social service partners today on behalf of the Truce Cares Gun and Gang Violence Initiatives, as well as some of the other partners that are in the room, like OGs Against Gun Violence. We have some of the pastors here that are part of this new initiative to help us with this. We are the village folks. And although I'm one voice representing the social services, more importantly, I live in this community. And as a stakeholder, it saddens me when we have to come to an event like this and talk about the violence. I'm going to steal a line from the chief of police who says, you know, we can't arrest our way out of this. Obviously, we can't have lawlessness. We can't have crime. So there will be arrests continue to be made when there's egregious acts of violence. But I think it's really imperative that we continue the work of being proactive in our community with all of the services that we have. But it's important that we resoundingly work together in all of our collaboratives, no matter what they are, to help this community move forward. And as a member of the Truce Cares Collaborative, I'm happy to do that. As a member of the community, I'm sometimes saddened that we have to stand here and have these, these calls. However, I agree. I agree with all of the law enforcement here. The fact of the matter is when these kinds of egregious acts of violence happen, people have to pay for the consequences of their behaviors. I'm saying with anyone that's in earshot of this message, we have these initiatives out there. You know, we understand that this is not utopia. However, we have them. We have SOA. We have OGs Against Violence. We have Truce. We have SNUB. And for anyone If you know a member of the community or someone that can utilize these services, please let them know that we're here. However, each one of us has to be the stakeholders in this village. And so, just reminding, please help those that need the help. Help ourselves, because they're going to keep coming. They're going to do what they need to do. And as law enforcement, that's what they need to do. So let us help ourselves first. Let us help to eradicate the senseless violence in the community. Thank you.
And now, Assistant U.S. Attorney Grant Jacobs.
There's no higher priority than working together to save the lives of our young people. To keep that commitment, we have put our money where our mouth is, with federal funding for Syracuse TRUCE and other initiatives to stop gun and gang violence, and federal prosecutions of those who persist. Since 2003, we have brought multi-defendant cases against the members of 8 gangs, convicting at least 122 people of federal felonies and sending them to prison for terms as long as 35 years, 40 years, even life imprisonment. We join with these leaders and their outstanding agencies in grieving the tragedies that brought this enforcement action, but celebrating the cases announced today that addressed those tragedies, and in assuring both victims and perpetrators that our commitment to continuing this fight with our local and state partners is firm and unwavering. We will use the breadth of the federal RICO statutes and the force of the statutory minimum sentences for drug and firearms crimes when the enhanced enforcement effort enables it. But the message of Syracuse TRUCE is about choices and consequences, opportunity and accountability, change and hope, and crime and punishment. For those who want a better life and a safer community, CUSE Cares and many other agencies represented here today are here to help. But for those who'd rather deal drugs and shoot at people, a coalition of local, state, and federal law enforcement is coming for them. The killing has to stop.
Thank you. I now open it up to any questions that any members of the media have. Mr. Magarelli?
Can you talk about what Truce Trigger is?
Sure. Frank will let you.
Certainly. When Truce Trigger is when someone that's a member of a gang picks up a gun and kills someone else from our community. That's a Truce Trigger. That's one of the parameters for a Truce Trigger.
And then what happens?
Then what happens then is that there's an enforcement effort by law enforcement for a period of time. We go directly after that gang or that group. We go after them for any and everything that we can think of, and it even goes beyond law enforcement. We use our social service partners to look at to see if anyone is using social services in an inappropriate fashion. We use our vehicle and traffic law very creatively to see if people have issues with their driver's license. Any and every type of enforcement effort that we can think of. Code enforcement on the residents, on the locations that they reside at. They're stepped up probation and parole. I don't see them here, but for those who are on probation or any type of supervised release, we use those efforts to go after them as well.
Did it just so happen that the 2 homicides kind of happened short to each other, or do you have any indication that they were related?
There's no indication that the 2 homicides themselves were related. It was just that the 2 homicides fit the criteria that I just described.
Chief, after previous triggers and initiatives, what kind of, aftermath or ripple effects have you seen in the community of those targeted areas?
Well, in some areas, the truce enforcement works, and it stems the tide of violence altogether. And in some areas, it only works for a short period of time. This is not the first time that we have been in this particular area on a truce trigger. It's not the first time. In fact, I've spoken to some people that are behind you that live here in the community, and we talked about issues that are still ongoing here that we have to continue to address. Sometimes it works, and sometimes that it don't work. I think if we're looking for a recipe for success, it's going to have to be a collaborative effort across the board, community and law enforcement alike, working together. We in law enforcement, I think we do an outstanding job with suppression. We identify the problem, we go after it, we arrest the source, and we stamp it right out. It's sustaining those efforts. That's where our challenge comes in at. Our community has to be our eyes and ears in our absence, and they have to pick up the phone and give us a call when they see criminal activity occurring.
Do you have any, would you say that the program is working, that everything that you've set out to do is having an effect on the amount of gun violence in the community?
It is working. However, I'm only saying that because you asked me that question. When people are dying or shots are being fired and people are being harmed, it's real challenging for me as the chief of police to stand up here and to talk about success. Because one person shot is one person too many. One person dying is one person too many. We're talking about human beings here, and they all have a value. So, yes, by the numbers, our Truce program is successful. But until that number reaches zero, you won't see a smile on my face.
Are those numbers shots with injuries, homicides? What kind of numbers specifically are you talking about that show that the program is working?
Well, that's a question that you could probably ask me outside of here, and we can go into more details when you want to talk about numbers as it relates to Truce. I don't have those numbers in front of me, and I'm assuming you're looking for a specific answer. Sure.
Let me just add to that the last time many of us were in this room was maybe last month with Senator Gillibrand. The challenge that we face on the number of guns that are flowing into our community cannot be understated. And those guns are not coming from New York State, they're coming from out of state. And so as long as you have the kind of volume of weapons available where people can make instantaneous, rash, bad decisions, this is a scourge that is incredibly difficult to eradicate. So we need help from others to make sure that we can stem, if not eradicate, the flow of illegal guns into our cities.
Was this like a 3-month process, this Truce Trigger?
Yeah, it turned out to be that, about that long.
And you could say this is on every level of, law enforcement, from federal, state, city?
That happens to be the truth, yes.
Did Syracuse Police make all of the arrests that are listed? Or was that?
No, we didn't make all the arrests that. The state police and the sheriff's department, they're not standing up here for window dressing. No, they work hand
They
in
are pretty good looking.
State is.
There's a lot to be said about a man in a purple tie. That's not what you all came here for. But it's a collaborative partnership, and the sheriff's department and the New York State Police and our federal law enforcement partners, along with let's not forget we have our prosecutors here, Mr. Kulikis from the Onondaga County District Attorney's Office, and Mr. Grant Jaquith, who's second in charge of the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Northern District. He took time out of his busy schedule to show up here today because of the commitment that they've made to the Truce program a long time ago. And when a Truce Trigger is called, they're all back at the table with the resources and dedication that they've committed to this program.
All right, thank you. Are there any other questions anybody has regarding this topic? All right, thank you all very much for being here. Thank you very much, Chris. I appreciate this fun. This is very solid.